Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to Stormworks. We are back in our tutorial series. In this one, we are going to be starting off with our composites. So we're going to get, we're going to get into the composites as I stated in some of the previous tutorial series. I figured we're going to start with the instrument panels. I know that this can be a little intimidating to a lot of new Stormworks players, so we're going to start out with just the instrument panels, something that's pretty easy to implement into your creations, something that makes them look pretty nice, and something that also doesn't add too many steps. So we're going to get into that. I'll show you guys how all of these work, and then in the later episodes, we'll get more into the other complex things you can do with composites. But again, I know this can be intimidating for a lot of newer Stormworks players, so I'll just kind of basically explain how you can use the composites from here, and then that will set you up in later episodes to learn more about them. But starting off, we got our gauges. So this is going to be a dial, and this is a gauge, and you can see they just kind of move around with our throttle input here. The next is going to be like our normal button. This is just a toggle button. And this is a push button. They're just different shapes. You can change the shape. You can also change the direction of this arrow. We'll get into that. And then here we have our 7 segment, and that displays numbers. You can also set that up to display each individual segment on your own. We will not be doing that in this episode, but I will kind of briefly go over how you can do that. This is similar to this and this. It's got 8 different segments in a radial. And then this is just a bar version of this. So this is just 8 segments in a row. And why we're talking about this is because these don't just take the normal input. And right on that topic, we will go back to the bench. So in our first episode, we learned that there is a logic channel called Composites, and that's what these are. So you'll notice that these instrument panels, they do not have a number that you can feed into them, even though they're reading a number. So I'm going to grab one of these instrument panels, and we will talk about this first and just what you can do with them. So they start off like this. There's 4 different sections. You can configure all 4 of them. You can change them to whatever you want. So I'll just show off a couple of them here. There's that arrow button. Yeah, so you can do all of these with them. And you can configure each one separately, so these channels are important. You guys keep these in mind, or try to write them down or something. I write them down a lot with the more complex creations. But we're going to get into our microcontroller editor, which is this button right here. I know we haven't talked about it yet, but we'll get into that a little bit with this episode too. It's essentially the same thing as the logic gate blocks that we talked about in a more condensed scale. So if you click this, this was one of the microcontrollers I was working on. I'm going to get out of that. We'll talk about it later. We're going to go to our selection tool and select the first one. And you can see pretty simple, guys, right? Not too bad. So what this is doing is essentially, think about this purple is just like a different language. That's the best way to put it. So what this is going to do is it's going to take our input, that green lever, or the throttle lever. So it's a green input, and it's going to write it into this purple language, so that box can control it. And it's going to do this on channel 1. So if we exit this, the value goes from the throttle into the box. It gets translated to composite, and then it goes into our instrument panel. And since it was on channel 1, you can change this right here. So if we go ahead and change this other gauge to channel 3, you will see that it will no longer change. And that's because it's not being written on the right channel. So similar with the on-off signals, you're just doing this. And to note, guys, to find these, what you're going to do is when you're taking, we're going to go back to this one quick. So when you're taking a green and you want to translate it to be into a purple, you're going to write. So you're going to write a composite, and since it's green, it's a number. That's what we're going to look for, and that's what this block is. They have them for numbers and values. So in this box, since we are going the other way around, we're taking a signal from the instrument and putting it onto a light not the other way around. We're going to read. So you just search read, you get our read on off, and you just connect the signals. And again, this is configurable. You can set it to any channel. There are 32 channels. And that will give us the on off. And these two are the same. So I'm just going to mark these. These guys are exactly the same. Just like these guys are also exactly the same. And we'll get into that. So these are going to be a little bit more of our complex composite channels. These are going to be our 7 segment, our radial segment, and our bar segment. The 7 segment is what it sounds like. There's 7 segments. You guys see these on a lot of old school scoreboards and that kind of thing. And then these are just kind of like, this is almost like a pie chart that you can configure. And then this is like a bar graph. So just keep that in mind. And you know, these are configurable. I'm not going to talk about the bits for these two, for these two. We're going to use the on off mode. So if you look, they start in bits, and this is a little complicated. I'm going to just do a brief overview. For the beginners, you probably just want to ignore this. Guys, when this is in bits, it's going to go on a scale of 0 to 255. It is going to display the data of a bit as well as the direction of it. So you're going to be able to, in 1/8 increments, display where the bit is as well as how many bits are there. So anyways, for the people who are new to this, just ignore all of that. That's pretty complex stuff. It's really not going to be used unless you're trying to make like a radar or something. But yeah, so when we go into these, this is a number, so this one's simple. So all we have to do with this one is just feed it a number. This is the same as our gauge over here. This throttle goes from 0 to 9. Ooh, I'm stuck. And our display goes from 0 to 9. These two are a little different. Again, we're going to use the on-offs. So when we get into this, keep in mind there's 8 of these section guys. And for your purpose, this and this are exactly the same. So we're going to go into here. And I know this kind of looks a little hectic, but all this is doing is this is taking a number, which is 0 to 1, and it's dividing it into 8 separate sections. So when we said there's 8 values, what you're going to do is you're going to get your right, your on-off right, and you're going to set your 8 channel count. And these will go in order. So you can see these are going into threshold gates. When this number is above 1/8 to 1, it will display that first value, showing that the throttle is somewhere, 1/8 range. The next step would be this 0.125 added together to get you 0.25, and you just keep going until you get all the way to 1. Looks like I have a repeater in there. But yes, this is how you do this, guys. So these are exactly the same. This is the best way for you to do it. You don't have to go in that order. That's how you easily split them into 8 separate numbers. So you can see at 0.5, 4 bars are on. So it's corresponding the value. It's just a nice little display. But yeah, so that is the basics of composites. And again, guys, I just kind of want to stress that really how these work is just view them as you're translating something. So we need this number to go into the purple number. So we're going to translate it onto channel 1. Just like over here, we need to make this number into 8 different on-off signals. So this is what we're doing it. And then we're translating it onto channel 1. That's all you got to do, guys. You either have to read the number and output it, or you have to write the number and input it. But that is going to just about do it for our tutorial series, guys. If you had any questions, definitely let me know down in the comments below. If you like the series so far, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. I know this was a little bit of a shorter one. I just wanted to make kind of a basic composites for a lot of the beginners. We're going to be obviously stepping up the complexity from here. I just figured this is a good stepping stone for a lot of you. But yeah, guys, that's all I have for today. So thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day.